Hello, Notre Dame fans. I'm joined by Tim Hyde, our resident football coach for blueandgold.com. Notre Dame taking on USC Saturday night, 7:30 at Notre Dame Stadium. Coach Hyde, we watched Brian Kelly's pressers these 2 weeks coming out of the bye week, and I just get this feeling that they've settled in on some cohesion and clarity about what they want to do with the quarterback position and what they're doing at offensive line. What are you sensing? What do you think we'll see? Let's start with the quarterback position.
Well, you go back to the quarterback, Greg, I keep going back to what I've been saying since Florida State game is, you went out and got Jack Cohn for a reason. I've said it 100 times, and it's true. They needed a quarterback, and they have stuck with him. That's the guy they need. He's got the experience, the Rose Bowl game. You go on and on and on and on and on. Even with Pine, the way Pine rallied and played, obviously so hard in the Cincinnati game in the second half and whatnot. When it came to the big road trip at Va Tech, they went with the experienced guy. They went right back to, the guy who won the job originally. And I know I've said multiple times over the last couple months Jack Cohn's been there since January. So he's had the whole spring. He's had the whole winter conditioning. He's been around all of those things. And he is the guy right now. And, some people want to go to the flavor of the week, as Coach Kelly has talked about a bunch. But at the end of the day, they're going with the guy who won the position. And they're gonna ride him out, stick with him. And if he gets injured, like in the Wisconsin game, boom, they know Drew Pine could come in. And obviously the Buckner package is just going to keep growing and growing and growing as he gets more and more reps underneath him.
You had a chance to watch more of Notre Dame, obviously, over the last 2 weeks. What do you feel is working for Jack Cohn?
Well, it's obvious. When Cohn is tempo, you could watch it when they just up the ante, when they get him moving, and it's just quicker thought process and not sitting back there trying to make multiple reads. He's been effective. Look at some of his 2-minute drives. Look at obviously a couple of his opening games. Touchdowns, they had against Toledo and Florida State to start the game. Even as, some of the fourth quarters he had where he's got the ball, limited time, but it's like, boom, these are the few plays, go take us down and go score. And Cohn has done that. So I think when it's multiple check with me's, there's a few times when you watch the film and you see Cohn always stopping, looking over to the sideline, trying to do it. Defenses adjust too.
Right.
And I've been a firm believer. Notre Dame's got some outstanding perimeter football players. The more you just go fast, the more you get those guys having to play one-on-one nonstop. I think that goes right into Notre Dame's favor.
Also on the offensive line, things seem to be clearing up. Notre Dame's depth chart was updated today, sent out to the media. There is no Orr on the left tackle now. It's Joe Alt. And then Andrew Kostovic is going to be starting at left guard. It just seems like they're sticking to what they have now, and that allows them maybe to kind of build on at least a little bit better play over the last 2 games.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. Coach Kelly talked about that today in his press conference today, where Rocco Spindler was brought up, and he was talking about he's close, but at the same time they're trying to get a cohesive unit, so they're not. After 6 games, a fall camp, a bye week now, and things of that nature, they kind of know who they have, what they have, and it's fine. And, one of the key things Coach Kelly's talked about over the last month is Zeke Correll's play. He loves Zeke. He has started every single game. He's been a center there. I've talked about this. He's been a center there for 3 years.
Right.
And all of a sudden, boom, August 1, they're like, hey, you're a left guard. Well, just go back to the left guards that they have had since, Brian Kelly 2.0 as we like to call it. Just think of these guards. They have Quentin Nelson. Then you get Alex Barr.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's that?
I said NFL Hall of Famer, and then
exactly. You got Nelson. Then you got Bars, and then you have, Banks. Those are 3 large humans that have been road grading for Notre Dame at left guard there. And all of a sudden you get Correll in, who sounds like he's playing at 285 pounds, 290, if that much. So with, Kostovic, you got a guy who's in that same class as Zeke, guy who's been in the program 3 years, and he's weighing 305 plus. So now you get a little bit of beef, a little bit of girth, so to speak, to fill some of those holes. And but at the same time, you got two new starters on the left side, and one thing USC has this week is some pass rushers in Jackson and the true freshman Foreman, both out of Corona, California, out there.
So it's bye week. I know you're a coach. What do you kind of reflect on during the week, and what do you expect to see? Maybe any wrinkles, or just kind of what are you trying to utilize this time for as it as it pertains to what you think Notre Dame maybe should do?
Well, the first thing you do is you take a deep breath, and, and I'm sure Coach Kelly and the staff has realized, wow, what a 6 games we've had. Every game's been a fourth quarter battle. So let's take a nice nap and relax. So I'm sure they've done a little bit of that. But the main thing is Coach Kelly's talked about as well is you always do a little bit of self-scouting. You see what has worked, going back to one of your questions with Jack Cohn. What has worked? Where can you make a couple tweaks here and there? Take some of the plays that have worked really good and bust out a new formation, a new type of motion out of those type of sets, and go back to what's been working and what's comfortable. And then the most important thing in the bye week is rest, recovery, especially when, you look at the schedule they played. I know everyone talks about, no one's giving them a lot of credit, but we were talking earlier. I mean, out of the 6 games, 4 out of these 6 games are against defenses in the top 25 in the country.
Right.
I mean, they have played some legitimate hard-nosed defenses, and they're 5-1 after this. So definitely rest. Obviously, coming off of midterms as well, it gives those players a little bit of a relaxation once the classes are all done. And then most definitely self-scout, tweak, fix up a few things on offense and obviously on defense, getting ready to go into their rival game. This is the big game now.
Yeah, I feel like USC with Drake Jackson and a bye week, and then you mentioned Corey Foreman, the 5-star freshman, has flashed certainly early on this year. If they get past that and block those two well, to your point, it doesn't feel like they're seeing guys in those last 5 games that they would have played against in the first 7. So it'll be pretty interesting. Let's talk a little bit about Drake London. I mean, we've mentioned him on our other shows this week. He is a phenomenal player. Stanford held him to only 4 catches. Everyone else couldn't figure out a way to stop him from catching the ball seemingly every other play. As a coach, what do you do when you have a player that is talented, physically capable, and just from a technical standpoint, I mean, like, he looks like a pro right now. What's your approach?
Well, that's a great point. You talk about a pro. I mean, I'm from Southern California. I saw him play in high school. People don't realize, I mean, he could have picked basketball or football. Yeah. If he was playing basketball at USC right now, he would legitimately have a shot to go play in the NBA. He is that talented of an athlete. And in football may be his second best sport. So he's outstanding. He's such a good football player. I've read and heard about some comparisons back to Notre Dame's days with when they had Michael Floyd. Yeah. Floyd caught over 90 balls, I believe, during his last year there at Notre Dame. So a little bit of comparisons like that, I found those pretty interesting to do, because that midterm, that intermediate guy, great route runner, competes like crazy for the football. There's some stats out there about just the ball's in the air, he's going to go get it, and he's been outstanding. He's got over 60 catches as a wide receiver. Notre Dame doesn't have one receiver with 20 catches on this year's team. Obviously they spread it out a whole lot, but he's a stud. He's a stud. So how do you stop him? I guess Coach Kelly said it. Copy what Stanford did, and they did a box and one, basically. An old. I go back to one of the great upsets in NCAA tournament history when Utah beat Arizona, and they put a box and one all over the place and went out and beat those guys. That was a great upset in the tourney, and maybe you do that. But if you do that, you got a guy up top and a guy underneath. That means everyone else is playing man to man, and those other guys better lock up. But one thing I noticed in the Stanford game was London's always to the left side, whether it's boundary, wide side, he's always to the left, to the left. And a few other games, they've moved him around a little bit. So it's going to be interesting to see, do they keep, is Cam Hart going to be on him? Is it going to be Lewis, Bracey, some sort of that nature? And obviously Notre Dame's got the X factor in Kyle Hamilton. Is he going to shadow him and
Right.
just be up top on him all game long like he did as a true freshman over Michael Pittman in the 2019 game?
Hmm. I like your comparison to Michael Floyd. Of course, now visions of the 2010 game in the rain where Notre Dame was still throwing the ball all the time to Michael Floyd, and he was a big factor in that game. Speaking of USC Notre Dame memories, you've followed both programs for much of your life, Tim. What are just some of your favorite memories from the Notre Dame USC series?
Well, I've been to the Coliseum for this game a lot, a lot. I mean, I was there for the great game in '86, the comeback game with Tim
Yeah,
Brown running back that punt return, and Lou Holtz's son Skip blocking the punt, and the great comeback there. The 1-versus-2 game, I did not get to go see that one. But when you think of great games, that's one.
yeah.
Um, you know, my worst memory. There's always a worst in everything. Is I hope Mike Goolsby doesn't hear this, but 2004. Holy
Yeah,
moly!
I was at
Yes, were you there?
I was at the no, excuse me, I was at the 2003 game.
Gotcha. In South Bend.
Yeah,
Okay. Well, 2004, it's rainy, it's drizzly. They got Leinert, Bush, they got all those guys. My girlfriend, who's now my wife, is a Notre Dame alum. We went to the game, tailgate, and had fun.
yeah,
And we got heckled like crazy wearing Notre Dame ponchos in the rain. But Notre Dame comes out and fire, goes up. They get 10 points their first 2 drives, don't score the rest of the game.
yeah.
And that was bad. But my favorite memory, you posted about this on the Blue and Gold message board, which I thought was awesome. Is get everyone back in the flow of things.
Yeah.
Is I go back to my favorite game all time is 1995. 1995, you got SC on the cover of Sports Illustrated with Keyshawn Johnson
Versus Keyshawn, yeah.
Exactly. And coming out, getting ready to roll. And SC's undefeated, I think ranked 5th in that game.
Yeah.
It's freezing the whole entire. I mean, just go back on YouTube and watch it, everybody. The whole entire SC team is in trench coats, hoodies, just heaters. And Notre Dame comes out because they had lost twice already to Northwestern Ohio State and just ran the ball down their throat with Paulus and Kinder and Farmer and Mark Edwards, one of the great fullbacks of all time, with 3 big touchdowns in that game. And that's one of my fondest memories, just because it was a big upset, freezing cold in South Bend, and just knocked SC right out of everything. That's one of my fondest ones.
Yeah, if you want to watch a smaller defense be more physical than the opposing, USC had a big offensive line that year. Mm-hmm. And Notre Dame wasn't really all that big on defense, and they just, like you said.
Well, that's the famous, real quick.
Yeah,
that's the famous goal line hit. Kenan Tatum, who was a free safety in high school, got a little bit bigger there in the weight room, played will linebacker. They had LaRon Cobbins at Mike, and that's the famous Tatum just goal line smash. And that 1995 is just one of my favorite games.
Tim, last but not least, the pressure's on. What's your prediction for the game?
Well, as I always say, every week's a new week, as Lou Holtz always used to talk about. But predictions. First off, this is Coach Kelly, 3rd game against an interim coach. Yep. So you go back to those games. 2013, you had Ed Ogeron brought in a team, and it was one of the most boring SC Notre Dame games of all time, 14-10. It was bad. And then obviously 2 years later, you had, when Sarkisian was let go and Clay Helton took over, you had a much better football game. I believe that was the 41-31 game.
Yeah.
So, you mix those 2 things together. I mean, Notre Dame's got to come out of this thing, with a win. One thing real quick is I went back and looked over, when was the last time an unranked USC team beat Notre Dame that was ranked?
Was it maybe 96? Was their first win over Notre Dame?
98, 96. So you put those together in the Coliseum. Obviously, 96 was Lou Holtz's last game, and SC goes down 80 yards, gets a touchdown and a 2-pointer, wins an OT. And 98 was the infamous no Jarius Jackson game, because he got hurt trying to run out the clock the week before against LSU, and they lost 10-0. Oh, but both of those games now were in the Coliseum. There's only been one time one time now, the crack staff at Blue and Gold could go and take a look at this, but doing a little bit of research
We
there.
have to do it off the top of my head. I don't. It would be a long. I mean, was there a year where USC was not good in the 60s, in the early 70s?
1971.
Wow.
1971, undefeated Notre Dame lost to 2-4 USC. So only one time in the history of this rival has an unranked USC team beat a ranked Notre Dame team in South Bend.
Wow.
So it's a long time ago. You got to go Notre Dame. I'm just going to, fingers are crossed that they come out and they turn this thing into a 2017 type of football game. But if not, London's a tear. Is Notre Dame's DB is going to step up and take him out of this thing. You still got a young offensive line on the left side, some great defenders at USC. I'm going to go 31-23, 31-23 Notre Dame.
I was pretty close. I think Notre Dame's too good of a program to let even the great, and he's great, Drake London take over the game. I have Notre Dame 33, USC 24. So thank you for everyone listening in. Hit like on this video. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Tim, thank you for your time. I'll see you Saturday night. It's going to be close to midnight. We'll be live on our YouTube channel 15 minutes after the game, breaking down the action from Notre Dame Stadium. Thanks, everyone.